What's up? It's Matt McWilliams here, and welcome back for part two of my two-part interview with Eben Pagan. Now, if you missed part one, make sure to go back and check that out. Now, we're going to dive right into part two now. But before we do, go grab your free copy of Eben's new book, Opportunity, at mattmcwilliams.com/Eben. mattmcwilliams.com/EBEN. You can get a copy of his book, tons of free bonuses and all that kind of stuff as well if you get it now during his launch week. So you got to get it like right now. mattmcwilliams.com/Eben. Go grab it now. Just pay for shipping and handling and grab that. Now we're going to jump in to part two of my interview with Eben Pagan. What are mental models? How do they help us to get more opportunity, especially for those people who are looking, who don't have 300 things in Asana? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, a mental model it's like a little miniature version of the way things work that you run inside of your mind. It's a little simulation of how things work out in reality. And once you understand a mental model for a particular domain, or some mental models are more general, they allow you to, most of the time, most people have to go out and figure things out through trial and error. Okay, in some way. You got to go try the thing, and then you see if it works. And then if it doesn't work, you make an adjustment, and then it keeps not working, you make an adjustment, and then eventually it works, and you say, now I've got it. You achieve experiential learning. You have understanding of the situation. Well, what also happens when you get to that point is you've learned how to model it in your mind so you can run a simulation and you can imagine doing it rather than having to do it out in reality, and you can save yourself a lot of time. And once you get a bunch of these mental models and you can switch them out and do them in combinations, you have the ability to try lots of things in your mind without having to go through the trial and error out in reality. So probably the most famous mental model, or the one that's the most widely known and used, is the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, right? And so the Pareto principle, right? Vilfredo Pareto, he went out and looked around. He was an economist in Italy, 100 and something years ago. He looked around and he noticed that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the people. And he noticed that 80% of the peas in his garden were in 20% of the pea pods. And he just kept seeing that this pattern existed, that 80% of the results were coming from 20% of the inputs or the efforts. If you go into a modern organization and you go into the sales department and you say, okay, let's say they got 100 salespeople, 80% of the sales are going to be being made by 20% of the salespeople. And this, 80% of the sales, if they've got, 100 products, 80% of the sales are going to be made by 20% of the products. This is this pattern that just exists across reality, and it's very interesting. Once you understand the Pareto principle and you go and you look at whatever you're encountering and you say, okay, 80% of the results are coming from 20% of the effort or 20% of the inputs, you can just start seeing all kinds of ways to increase efficiency in your life. You can say, all right, so 80% of the nutrients in my diet are probably coming from 20% of the foods that I'm eating. Mm-hmm. What are those 20% of the foods? I went out and I found the foods that have the highest nutrient per calorie density. A lot of them are organic greens and, some other things, certain seeds and nuts and things. And I put them all together and I make a green shake at the beginning of every day. And I make a big pitcher of it. And I make myself 2 of them. And I put one in the fridge for another meal later in the day. And I give them to my family as well. And it's part of our ritual every morning. And, I have in my first green shake, I probably have more broad spectrum vitamins and minerals and nutrients than most people, have in their whole day, because I've just concentrated it. Like it's my Pareto nutrition, and, similarly, if you look in your life, if you've got unhappy relationships, if you've got 20 friends, probably the challenges, the things that are making you unhappy are coming from 4 of them, 20% of them, right? So it's the similar where you're getting challenges in your life. You go look there, they're coming from 20% of the causes. Once I have that mental model, right? One of the ways that I like to think about it is, if you imagine a circle in your mind, just imagine a circle, and then inside of the circle is a smaller circle that's about 20% the size of the original one. And you could use this as a lens to look at anything conceptually. Every time you look at something, look through the smaller circle and ask, what's the thing that's giving us all the results? Identify that, and go do more of that positive thing and eliminate it if it's the negative thing. And your life is just going to start getting better because Pareto compounds. Pareto, not to keep going too deep into this one, but Pareto's fun. Pareto is also recursive because you'll find that oftentimes in situations, not always, but it's pretty common, that within the 20% that's giving you the 80%, 20% of the 20% is giving you 80% of the 80%. So 4% is giving you 64%. And within the 4%, 20% or about 1% is giving you 50%. So in a system, oftentimes 1% is giving you 50% of the results. It's a very interesting pattern that occurs. And if you got these lenses, you got this model, you can become like a modern wizard just with that one mental model. And if you've got dozens or hundreds of them, just imagine what you can do.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fascinating exercise because like I read a study and they found, sure enough, 1% of the roads contain just under 50% of the traffic. 20% of the roads have a little bit over 80% of the traffic. And that seems logical because you're like, well, Alaska, Kansas, but but even if you look at New York City, 1% of the roads have 50% of the traffic. 20% of the roads have 80% of the traffic. And it's like, it is so true. And you mentioned the positive side, the same is true. You actually did touch on a negative example with like 20% of your friends are going to give you 80% of your problem. It's like, if you think about it, it's like, 20% of the foods that I eat are probably 80% of my problem, namely donuts. They're just so good. I mean, let's just be honest. But, like it's so true. It's not the 80%. It's not the salad I had at lunch. It wasn't the bacon. It wasn't the sushi, it's the donut. It's always the donuts. Dang it. But it's so true. It's like negative and positive. And I think we hear that. Unfortunately, I think 80-20 has become so, for lack of a better word, cliche. It's become so cliche that I think it's lost its power. And that's why I love, that's why I brought up mental models. It's like, you actually reminded me of what I knew, but had kind of, I knew it, but I'd stopped applying it, about the Pareto principle. So I love hearing it. We could talk about that the rest of the episode.
Well, another thing about mental models is that when you start studying mental models as a thing, it's not just learning a mental model, but you actually start looking for the model that someone's using and you start collecting models and thinking of them as these concentrated kind of data compressed machines that you can carry around in your brain. When you learn differently. When you're learning from somebody, instead of just saying, okay, what do I do? You're actually trying to ask, what is the model that you're using in your brain? How does it look? Do you have visuals? How do you do the calculations? What's the sequence? And then once you've got the whole model for how they do reality, right, then you can plug it into your other models. I look at myself as kind of a mental model collector. And in fact, in the book there, I've got sections where I put my favorite mental models for different topics, because you need multiple models. You need Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, he says you need about 100 mental models from diverse domains, from different domains in life that you can use in combination, and then you become a super generative, like very creative person. And that's key. You need diverse mental models. Most of us are only looking at the world through like our main mental model, whatever that is, whether it's a family member or a marketer or an entrepreneur, or if we're in politics or our religion. We've got our main model and we don't take it off and then try on other models. And when you do, it's like trying on a telescope and then trying on a microscope and then trying on binoculars and then trying on a prism. You can see all these things that you couldn't see before. They just pop right into view, but you need the internal mental lens that you can put on to see.
Yeah, that is so cool. I mean, like, to be able to look, that's one of the things I went through about 10, 11, 12 years ago with my second company. Was I said something to this lady that worked for us. She was about 4 or 5 years younger than me. She was just out of college. And I said something to her that to me, it was just me saying something. Like I had forgotten I had said it 2 seconds after I said it. I was on with my day. It was towards the end of the day. I'm out the door, and I got a call about 9 o'clock at night, and it was like, "Can you tell me why this girl was crying at work before she left today?" I'm like, "I don't have a clue. I don't know. Did her boyfriend break up with her? I have no idea."
Mm-hmm.
So we dug into it. Like nobody knew. Nobody had asked. Well, come to find out, like 2 days later, it was what I had said. And of course, my first reaction, because I was like 26 years old, I was a punk, was, the heck's wrong with her? you know? But the thing is, what I did was I had to take that mental model and I had to go, okay, I'm her boss. She's 22, just out of college. This is her first job. And what she heard, because I didn't hear this in my own head, what she heard was that she had completely screwed this project up, this big project, right? She had screwed it up beyond all recognition, when really I was just giving her some feedback. It wasn't that big of a deal to me. And I realized like that new mental model that I had to put on was, oh my gosh, as a leader of this company, like my words carry exponential weight. And I also had to learn to see through a 22-year-old woman's, lens, which was really hard for me. But like, it was just crazy. And it was this new mental model. And so that one single event like changed everything for me, because it meant that no longer could I just spout off and say things. I had to really, really, really think that, okay, if I say this, what are the consequences of me saying this? And so became a much more quiet person, actually, which was hard for me. But I love that. I love that. So we've talked a lot about like an abundance of opportunity. We've talked about opportunity shock. I talked about, how to, some of these filters, but like, what about those people who are on that level where, they have more desire for opportunity than they actually have opportunities? What is like the most important thing we can do to have more opportunity?
The highest leverage thing that you can do to have more opportunity and to have more success in life is to add social influences who have achieved the thing that you want to achieve. Right? The most transformational, the highest leverage thing that I know of is putting yourself physically in the presence of people who have achieved the thing that you want to achieve, and just being around them in a social environment. I mean, it can be a business social environment, but being around them socially. So one of the things that I like to do, and I wrote about this more in the book, is go find subcultures that are diverse and interesting, where there are people doing new things. They're trying new stuff out.
Yeah.
Go meet the people there, right? Things that are interesting to you. So for example, many years ago, they started having the Singularity Summits in San Francisco. And this is very interesting. The singularity is the idea that at some point computers might wake up and, be sentient beings, and that they might eventually be able to recursively improve themselves. And if they get to that point and they wake up and they can improve themselves without us being there, and they get to our level of intelligence and they go past us, that's called the technological singularity.
Mm-hmm.
Know what's on the other side of it, right? This is very interesting. Ray Kurzweil's ideas. They had a Singularity Summit. I went there. There's a few hundred super geeks in the room that are working on things like artificial intelligence and robots and all kinds of stuff that I don't know anything about. But it was fascinating. And I totally, jammed with it. And I met several of the people, and I kept going back, and I've made friends. And now I have friends for many years that I've met, in the Singularity Summits and so forth. And so you go there, and you go, and it's a subculture where things like this are happening. That's the thing to realize, is a new subculture being born. There are new ideas, there are new values, and they are just brimming with opportunity. There's just, if you go back to those first 2 or 3 Singularity Summits and you just ask who was in the room there, you're going to see that people that now are running companies that are doing, AI and robotics and all kinds, virtual reality, they were all there. And you could have just walked up to them, met them. I did. I met a lot of these people. I met people that, went on to be famous in some of these big companies, and they're just walking around. Burning Man is another one of my favorites, right? Burning Man is it's like the blossoming train wreck, the most beautiful crashing together of different cultures from around the world. at this art and music festival, out in the desert once a year. And I mean, it is a subculture. Like it
Yeah,
really is different values, different way of looking at reality. I met my wife there almost 9 years ago. So Burning Man's
that's
really
awesome.
pretty special to me. But when you go to these places again, I found visionary art there, which now, is all over all my walls. We collect this. It's one of my passions in life. I've gotten to know all the artists. I really love it. You, if you go to places where there are new things happening and go meet the people, you can't help but be changed. You can't help but discover lots and lots of opportunity, interesting people to do projects with, interesting things to learn about.
So translation, get off your butt, get out from behind the computer, and get out there. I mean, that's what I tell people. Like, they're not going to be, how do I get to know people better? You go get to know them. Like, break bread. It's in the Bible. It's probably a good idea, like
Yeah,
seriously. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I think
exactly.
back to all of the people who, whether it be your JV partners or, they're promoting your new book, like, or they're, whatever. It's the people that, like, we're texting each other every day. And the reason we're texting each other is because we had lunch at a conference 4 years ago. Those are my buds, and it really, like, I hate to say it, I'm speaking directly to my audience here who don't seem to get that sometimes. Like, tough love, it really is that simple. Like you said, you literally are like hanging out at that Singularity conference with some dude who's like an IPO billionaire now. you know, and to
Exactly.
you he was just Frank, like, the weird guy with the old T-shirt. So I love that. I mean, that it's a great answer because the problem with that answer for some people is it's not the answer they wanted to hear, but it's the truthful answer. It's the
Well,
truth.
you don't have to go to these radical. Yeah, I mean, I'm also talking
Yeah,
about going to these, pretty
you don't
crazy
have to go to
places.
Burning Man.
I
Yeah.
went. No, no, you don't. I mean, when I was, when I first started out in business, I would I started going to real estate seminars that were,
Hmm.
in my town locally, and that was like a new thing. I had started out. I got a real estate license. I went and met people that I met a man who was doing a real estate seminar. I went to work with him doing audio visual, and that just changed my life. Introduced me to a completely new group of people that were learning. I learned all kinds of things about sales and marketing and other things. I've done this. Like, the reason why I'm saying that this is a common one, this is the thing in common, is to go find new people who are doing interesting things. It doesn't have to be radical things. It can just be things that are interesting to you, whether it be
Yeah.
personal. Maybe you're interested in parenting. Go find some people locally that are getting together that are talking about parenting, and just put yourself into that group of people who are learning, who are growing, who are adapting themselves in new ways. If you're trying to figure out business in your life, go take some courses with people that are teaching entrepreneurship or teaching business or teaching new models of business. Go to a program where people are talking about coaching or one of the new, kind of, high growth industries that are out there. Meet people that are interested in this. And what you'll find, whether it's a church or whether it's a scientific community or whether it's Burning Man or the Singularity folks or, rock bands or whatever it is, when you go there and you find people that are serious, that are getting together and talking about it, there's something there. There's a spark. They're
Hmm.
figuring out some new thing about how reality works. And when you start figuring it out with them, you say to yourself, "Oh my gosh, these people they've got something that nobody else has." And if it's something that's growing, if it's something that's kind of catching on, because you can tell that it learns, it helps people learn and develop themselves. You'll learn something interesting. You'll get the transmission from other people, and they will inspire you to become better. Add social influences. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. Take whatever you like and add the word con, to the end for conference. I mean, there's a conference for everything. Isn't it? It's crazy. Like, you're in a needlepoint. There's probably NeedleCon. That
Yeah.
could be a drug event. I'm not sure. Um,
Con isn't the best word either. It's kind of a weird
yeah,
word we picked over the end of all these, but yeah.
it is. Like, but seriously, whatever, go to a marketing thing or go to your niche and just, like, hang out with people. And I tell a quick story because we went to, I don't know, it was one of Jeff Walker's events in the past few years. And this guy, like, we had lunch plans. kind of had our group of people. We were really excited about it because we had never actually all been together in one room, and really excited about lunch. And this guy comes up. I'm just gonna be like kind of a weird guy, and he comes up very awkwardly and like starts walking next to us. And I remember kind of noticing it, and I'm like looking over, and I'm keep looking. He's still so we all kind of naturally slow down, and he slows down, and we speed up, and he speeds up. And it's like, finally, when we get close to lunch, he's like, "Can I have lunch with you guys?" And of course it's funny because the whole, like, this is so awkward, but we're like, we can't say no. Like, we're nice people. I don't know how to say no to this guy. So we all kind of look at each other and we're like, yeah, okay. Turns out the guy is actually great. He's awesome. We all hit it off. By the end of that meal, which he was so nervous to ask, by the end of that meal, he had like the personal emails and cell phone numbers of, like, let's just be like, probably the equivalent of about 500,000 list size, and it turns out that, it's not a good fit for me, but he's actually done some business with a couple of the guys, sitting at that table, all because he finally got up the courage to ask to eat lunch with us, and that's what it takes. That's an opportunity right there, but he had to put himself in that position. So I love that. But as we come,
can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Learn something new. Learn something new.
What's your new thing right now?
So key. The mental models thing that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So I started a passion project last year around mental models, and I just got a bunch of people together that I knew that were into different types of mental models, very diverse people. We got a couple of Airbnb houses next to each other, and we all just hung out for 3 days, and we shared our mental models with each other to just see if, like, is there something here? And there was. And then we started getting together once a week on a Skype call and sharing our mental models with each other. And now I've got a little thing where we're teaching mental models. And so I'm really into these. And so that one, that's one of the reasons I'm so kind of like excited about it right now. Mental models is a big one. And another one that I'm learning a lot about is family. When there's, I'm really fascinated by collaboration between partners. And then also when there's conflict or there's a break, how if you come back and repair it, the relationship actually is stronger than it was before the conflict happened. And that it's your choice about whether or not to go and repair and have it get stronger. But you have to know that the relationship, almost like a muscle when you go to the gym,
it's like a muscle,
a bit, it gets stronger. Even this morning I had something happen with my daughter that is, I feel like it's one of the most significant things that's ever happened in my family life and my whole life. And it's because I'm working on that, and if something goes wrong, it's like work on that repair and that partnership and the family. And there's something there that I'm also excited about learning about that.
Yeah. I love that. I had to force myself recently to start listening and reading non-business books. It's like, I love business. So what do I like? Reading books about business. And so I got into reading a lot of biographies. And then, like, now I'm just like obsessed with history, so it's all the podcasts I listen to. Like, I have listened to every episode of Hardcore History, with Dan Carlin. I don't know if you ever listen to it. No. Fascinating stuff. I know more about world history than like anybody would ever need to know, but it's just fascinating. And like, I'm like, so the other day I'm having lunch. I don't know if you know, or you probably at least know of Kevin Harrington.
Yeah. I think I've heard of Kevin. I don't think we, who is Kevin Harrington again?
He was the original shark from Shark Tank. He's the guy who invented the infomercial.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking of somebody else. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I know who Kevin Harrington is.
So I'm having lunch with him, which is, super cool. And out of left field, I pull out this analogy, how I compared Open Cart Day to the German Blitzkrieg of Belgium. And the look on his face is like, no, I get it, because he actually, he knows World War II. And he knew that history, which of course he's like a wealth of, like, he can go from talking about World War II to immediately talking about the backup quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles like that. It's crazy because he reads 5 newspapers a day. But anyway, it's like, I realized, like, oh my gosh, there actually is a business connection. So I don't know how he got on that diatribe, but I love that idea of learning something new. And I'm with you on the family thing. There's a book I'm listening to. I don't even know the name of it. and it's about communicating with children. And I am enjoying it so much. And like the other day, our son just did an absolute face plant. He's 2.5, did a hard face plant on the concrete. And he got up and he's crying, like any 2.5-year-old who just like ripped his skin up, head to toe. And I looked at him and my first reaction was, "You're okay." So I said to him, "Well, that didn't work." And then I remembered something from this book I was listening to, and it said, and I was like, "Well, duh." So I've been working on this. This is my thing right now. Right now, my only thing as a parent is I'm working on this one thing, because it's like, if I can get this habit down for about 28 days, then I can move on to the next good thing. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him and I said, "Giovanni, you really hurt yourself, didn't you?" And he goes, and I could see already, he went, "Yeah." And I said, if I could, I would take all your pain away right now. And he just leaves me, he goes, "Thank you." And then started playing. And I'm like, that worked. What the book said worked. I learned something and it worked. And it's like, anyway, I don't know how I got off on that, but there's a tip for you. If you ever, because your daughter's 4, I'll see if I can find that book and send it to you. Because it's fascinating and it actually works. Like everything in this book that I've tried works with my kids and they're amazing. So, opportunity, back to that real quick. What, like, in your opinion, I know it's a tough one, but in your opinion, what's like the biggest area of specifically financial opportunity in the future? What do you think, Evan?
Well, for probably most of the people listening and people who are interested in entrepreneurship, I think that it has to do with the information industry. It's where I've been working for a lot of time in my life. And it's a particular opportunity right now because we're at a moment where hiring coaches, going and buying online courses, educating yourself has finally become legit.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay, everybody. I mean, you remember the days when, you'd be riding around in your car listening to, you remember tapes, and people thought
Corey
that was
Rudell.
Yeah, like it was weird to like listen to an audio tape of someone teaching you something in your car rather than music. That wasn't that long ago. Now it's mainstream. And because knowledge and information is the most valuable thing on the planet now, and because we've moved into a knowledge economy, as Peter Drucker said, we all have to learn about how to take what we know and package it up into formats that other people will find valuable and to offer it in products and services. I think we also all need to learn marketing, and I think we also all need to learn coaching. I've been teaching these things for 10 years now, and that's after, several years of running a very big, successful online information marketing business. And, so I've been teaching people how to start businesses and make money and become successful entrepreneurs for a long time. We didn't really touch on that, but I think that this is the place to do it, because not only is it a big financial opportunity, but it's also a big personal growth and learning opportunity. With entrepreneurship, I think the ideal business is one that you start, and even if it doesn't work out, you still learn something that made it more than worth the investment to do it.
Totally, yeah.
And when you learn these skills, when you learn about sales and marketing, when you learn about coaching, or if you learn about creating digital products, or if you learn about teaching online and doing seminars, when you learn these things, they're future-proof skills. They're skills that you can keep using. They keep getting more and more valuable into the future, right? So, yeah, I really like this area. I really like this domain a lot.
Oh, I love it. And I love it. What you mentioned coaching and teaching, like in your opinion, what's the difference between the two?
Okay, so the distinction is if you're doing information products, if you're creating digital products, you're creating a course. Okay, so I have a course, for example, called Wake Up Productive. It's a 90-day course.
Love it.
Okay, you've been through Wake Up Productive. You watch a video at the beginning, you watch a few fast start videos, and you watch a video per week, and you put habits in place in your life. Okay, so that's one of my courses. I've packaged it up. Anyone can go through it now, anytime. People are going through it around the world, at any moment. There's somebody online right now going through Wake Up Productive as we're having this conversation. Online teaching, right? If you're doing, like, let's say webinars, or you're doing live group teaching, you're going to get on and it's going to be you live with people teaching and answering questions. And I've done that a lot as well, and I'm sure you have as well. But there's a distinction between having a product that people can go through anytime and you being there actually doing the teaching. Yep. Now, you can also record when you teach and turn that into a product, which is, which is a cool thing to do. Coaching is, I define coaching as supporting another person through a transition in their life.
Hmm.
Okay, so coaching is supporting another person through a transition. Coaching is not doing it for them. It's not telling them what to do. It's letting them figure it out. Parents, in a lot of ways, we have to be the ultimate coaches because we have to be patient and let the child figure it out for themselves. And what's interesting about being a coach is it's harder to let the other person figure it out. It takes longer to let the other person figure it out, to ask questions as they come to their own conclusions, and then to support them and hold them accountable and so forth. So I define coaching as supporting another person through a transition or transformation in their life. And usually coaching is done one-on-one with coaching clients. Sometimes you can do it in a group, but those are maybe a couple of distinctions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, Evan, first off, thank you so much for your time today. This is, it's been a treat for me, because I've been a fan of yours for so long. I know this is going to be a treat for everyone else. And I just have one last question for you. It's a bit of a personal one, but I'm curious to know the answer. What's your favorite opportunity right now? Personally.
You mean in my own life?
Yeah.
Or do you mean generally for other people to be interested in?
Both. Answer the general one first and then your own life.
The general one and then my own life. For most of the world, it's probably to learn coaching.
Okay.
I didn't come here to talk about coaching, but really over the last few years, the reason why I created a course last year on coaching, and I've been doing it for a lot of years. I didn't really get it until I was married. I had a family. I started, we started working with our friends. My wife's a love coach. And, with opportunity increasing, with change increasing, we're all going through more and more transitions in our lives, right? We're all going through personal transition. We're going through professional transitions. We're moving, we're having families, and we're balancing more of these because we can work virtually. We have more time in a lot of cases for ourselves.
Yeah.
And because everyone now is going through a life transition, and because most of us are online and we don't have as much friendship, we don't have as much support, social support, we need coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coaching, I think, is going to explode. I think it's just going to keep skyrocketing as we need professional friends who are really good at it to support us as we go through all these transitions.
I love that definition of a coach there, professional friend. I like that.
Yeah. And I'll give you that one. And this question kind of threw me for a loop because I didn't know if you meant personally, professionally, and also digital products.
But since you brought it up, I was like, no, I'm kind of curious about overall too. So yeah, but personally, what's your biggest or your favorite opportunity right now?
I think the blockchain is going to be a big deal. Blockchain and cryptocurrency. Watch that one. Don't go crazy and throw all your money into it, but putting a couple of percent into something like I think there's something going on there. I'm not an investment advisor or whatever. Yeah. Your mileage may vary, but there's something going on there. But personally, I think it's learning about romantic relationship. I think it's learning about the collaborative, like in love romantic relationship. It's the hardest and most rewarding personal development journey that I've encountered so far, and I've been through a lot of them. That one, personally, for me, that's kind of my big opportunity, is to become a better partner and collaborator with my wife.
That's awesome. That is really cool, Evan. So, well, again, thank you so much, guys. Keep listening, and I will share with you how you can get the book. And Evan, I'll just tell you, after this, I'm going to record some stuff and share with my audience some special bonuses if they go get the book. So
thank you for doing that.
Some really, really cool opportunities for you guys. So Evan, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you.
Remember, go grab your free copy of Evan's new book, Opportunity, at mattmcwilliams.com/Eben. That's mattmcwilliams.com/EBEN. You just pay shipping, right? Shipping and handling. Go grab your copy, start reading it. You'll get tons of free bonuses as well if you get it now. So go do that, and I'll see you in the next episode.